Good evening. How's everyone doing tonight? I am super excited to be here and I want to welcome all of you and thank you for registering. We've got over 200 people in the house tonight, so go team. I'm looking forward to having some live interaction back and forth with you. So, tonight's event is about the 2026 season that we're in. And I call this opportunity a disruption advantage. For those of you who love to seize opportunities when things are changing, because I'm going to talk to you tonight about why creativity, activating creativity, is going to beat the pants off of compliance in 2026. And those of you who learn about the importance of creation and how to create in your company and with your team and activate a creativity culture are going to win big. So, if we look at 2026, how many of you out there would agree things are moving faster? So, if it's just put yes in the chat if you believe that things are going a heck of a lot faster. We're in now an intelligent age where we've got so much information and it's instant. It's like we're Tony Stark in the what's it called? Oh, anyway, the Avengers, right? And you know how Tony has his he talks to that Jarvis guy and throws up and gets information from him all the time. Well, we all now have our own Jarvises. So information is totally abundant, it's instant, it's everywhere. And the second thing that's going on is the markets are really moving fast. I mean, there is expansion everywhere in all kinds of different industries. And as that happens, the only bottleneck that we face as leaders in organizations are how fast can we adapt and how fast can we lead the adaptation with our team to create that kind of a culture so that we can activate creativity because creativity is now going to be the multiplier. And what 2026 is going to reward is those of us that can get our product to market with speed and influence people to make decisions a lot faster. And so if we work on the adapting to change, the ability to respond to the marketplace's need with speed and agility, and then the third thing is the ability to take our communication skills, our soft skills up to the next highest level so that we really develop our influence skills, we're going to win because creativity, I'll say this a couple times tonight, is definitely the multiplier that's going to get you the speed and influence you need to win. Okay, so in 2026, it's not going to be about the old story and the old game we used to play. We used to play the old game of discipline and getting more execution through discipline. And that's not going to work anymore because discipline and information. That's not going to work because now it's all about how fast can we activate people to make decisions. And those goals that we might have in the past achieved through some sort of a compliance and a strict compliance program of discipline is not going to work in a world that's moving at the high speed train of AI speed. Another thing that we have to think about as leaders is we've been working a lot on fixing symptoms instead of causes. And tonight I'm going to introduce you to some root cause information that hopefully will enlighten you about how creativity does get activated and how you can start working at cause to fix things like engagement, fix things like missing your goals, fix things like uh, your your team's ability to adapt, your ability to adapt, and how you experience disruption and how you can reframe that so that you stay relevant and you are able to regulate your internal state and the psychological safety of your team and your culture so that you can really activate creativity and turn your culture towards purpose instead of protection. We're going to talk about that tonight because there's a human wiring issue going on, and there's no longer an excuse for you not to understand what's going on because it needs to get addressed. And if you can work at cause, you're going to have a quantum leap. But you will never, if you don't work at that internal cause, that internal state of your people and the human wiring issue that's going on, you'll never be able to outperform the internal state of your human capital. And your human capital in your organization, attracting top talent and keeping them and retaining them, is going to be the secret juice, the competitive advantage of the future. It's not going to be the innovation, it's going to be the people. Now, here's the stakes. The first one is if you keep tonight, I want to tell you about three things that you really want to change in your strategy and stop working on symptoms and move away from the symptoms and start working on cause. And the first one I want to bring up is engagement, because just a week ago, Gallup came out with the January 2026 poll, and it says we're still stuck around 30% in the US on our engagement. Now, what that signals is that's a huge opportunity, because if you think about what engagement is, it's the productivity of your team in the organization. And if you're able to take that up 10, 20, 30, 40% this year, you're going to have a huge amount of gain. You're going to be able to do quantum leaps like never before. And we've been having decades of working on engagement, but we've made little progress. So here's why the engagement is not the problem. You can do all the KPIs, you can do all the surveys. A lot of people are focused on making sure managers care, and that comes out in the surveys. And I'm not saying that, and that is an important part. The danger you want to watch out for is sometimes when people go into care mode, they can fall into dysfunction traps like codependency, where managers start picking up monkeys out of thinking they're doing care and not making sure employees are owning the responsibilities of their roles so that everyone is working as a team. Engagement is, so if you want to write this down, engagement is a lagging indicator. The leading indicator is psychological safety. And that's what we're talking about tonight when it comes to a human wiring issue. Psychological safety is very typical problem. When we have something that we recognize as a human being that looks like it's unsafe, we say our motivation shuts off. And why does that happen? Because the brain wants to conserve energy. And if we don't have psychological safety, or we think we're in danger, human wiring will put your brain and your nervous systems over to protection mode. And that's what causes the motivation to kick off. So the root cause of engagement is not, um, you know, the outside things that we try to do to get people motivated. Hey, let's get it, give everybody a rah-rah speech. That doesn't do it. They have to, the internal state of an individual, even you yourself, has to have psychological safety. And it's the fear that causes the procrastination that happens. So people are not lazy. We've been triggering in our culture an environment of unsafe, and as a result of this unsafe feeling in the environment, which we may be doing, I'm sure no one's doing this intentionally, but we'll talk about how you can see maybe some of the patterns that are causing you to activate in people more protection as opposed to purpose and meaning. And here's the good news, why this is an opportunity, the minute that you can turn that culture around and people feel safe, you start enabling the multiplier, creativity. Because if they don't feel safe, what you enable is compliance. And we said at the beginning that compliance is going to lose this game and creativity is going to win. But if they're safe, they're going to create. And then the creativity is going to create momentum in the ability to be productive and highly engaged. Stake number 2. Goal setting. This is the time of year when most corporations have set goals. Hopefully you have the goals out to your team and you know what the goals are for 2026. But most of those goals will fail if you've been doing the old way of setting goals. Uh, Goals that are what I'm going to describe to you is I'm going to describe three types of goals. Two of them are logical and will have no relevance in a high-speed world. And the biggest thing about those goals is if they're not inspiring goals, you're not going to attract top talent and builders. And with the generational shift coming up in 2030, you're going to the studies say that they want people that are going to have something they're attracted to people that are doing something and having an inspiring goal with meaning and value where they can that workforce can come into an organization and contribute on a large scale and be mentored and be developed to grow and expand in their career. So there's three types of goals. How many of you, and just take a poll here, how many of you set goals to maintain status quo? So if that's you, that's what I would call a maintenance goal. Now, a maintenance goal, you're trying to preserve what exists, and it's not a bad idea to say, hey, we did this in 2025. We've got to do at least that. That's great. But it's a goal that you are using the past to determine your future. And it has no inspiration in it because it's not creating anything new. You've already done that before. You know how to do the 10 million you did in 2025 or the 100 million that you did or the 1.5 billion you did in 2025. But 2026, you want to grow and expand in some way. So most of us will say, okay, well, let's do the typical thing that we've been doing the last 2 decades, which is, oh, we can grow 5, 10, 20% this year. We can make these stretch goals. And if we just sell this much more and we tap into this market, we can get a 20% hit, and the stockholders should be pretty happy with that. Again, it's not an inspiration goal, it's a stretch goal. So what it means is that most people take that to say, okay, I have to do what I did last year and I have to stretch myself, and it's going to be harder and it's an effort. And what happens is people come out of the gates and then they kind of dissipate. And why does that happen? Because there's no inspiration in an addition goal. Now, the third type of goal is what I call a multiplication goal, and it goes so nicely into 2026 where we're going to have this exponential growth. And what's a multiplication goal is going to do is it's going to help you create new value. So this is where that creativity advantage, the disruption advantage of creativity that becomes a multiplier gets activated. This is where people can contribute on a big way to a big dream. And if you, as a leader, have a vision and you are talking about that vision and getting buy-in to that vision, and people can see in that vision, that new vision of where you want to go, why you're doing it, why it's important, and how they can fit into that dream, have their dreams met, and contribute to that and contribute to something that has a big, greater meaning, then they feel empowered. They're experiencing fulfillment because when we connect as a team, when we contribute with each other, and we're connected to that same goal, we're experiencing fulfillment. So multiplication goals is going to be the only type of a goal that's going to win in 2026 because the speed of change and the speed of adapting to change and creating new value and coming up with what's next demands that you activate creativity. If you're back in those other goals and you haven't addressed some of the engagement issues, you're setting goals that have no inspiration in it, and you haven't addressed the compliance and the safety issues, you're not going to win big in 2026. Multiplication goals with inspiration and meaning pull people forward as opposed to having them chase something from their past. chasing something new and stretching out is not the same as being pulled forward into a new vision. Third stake for the 2026 is the biggest opportunity and the most obsolete thing that you really don't want to be doing in 2026 is the same old information-based training strategy. That's out. Experiential training is in. And the reason for that is the information, like I said, we all know, right? AI is abundant with information. Sometimes we get so much information from AI, we don't even know what to do with it all. So that's not the bottleneck. The bottleneck is applying the information you have to solve a need, create value for the marketplace. That's the new model. And it's going to be experiential training that is getting people to understand how they can activate their creativity and how they can use the information to create new value for the marketplace that's going to matter. Because if we give them insight and we keep giving them more information, they can get it, everybody can get it. But if they don't change the state, the person they're being, they're not becoming the next version of themselves and the next version of the company for the future it demands, nothing's going to stick. The new training requirement is experiential training, and that includes the ability to work on things like the human wiring issue. The human wiring issue of fear activated in nervous systems of people is what is causing the issue with engagement. When people are stressed and their energy flow is constricted, they go into a catabolic, like hunker down and save and conserve energy mode, and they're not in the highest energy release mode of creativity. And if the fear is the thing that's stopping it, and it's the fear is causing the procrastination, then we need to learn and train our teams on how to calm those internal circuits. I'm going to describe that internal fight, flight, freeze process and what's causing it. And once you start learning that and you take it to your teams, you know what you have to do for a cultural change to create an environment of creativity zone. So calming the circuits is part of the new training for this new phase of era that we're in, and creating a psychological safety environment in the work culture is extremely important. The second thing is to activate that creativity, we have to define what the new identity of the company is in this new cultural age of speed and influence. So, who we used to be yesterday is not who we need to evolve to be in today. And when we get that unique value proposition and that identity and that brand nailed down, and we get everyone in the company to buy into the new brand and identity we're taking to the marketplace to address the needs for speed and acceleration and influence, we're going to start to create our own affluence. But the training state of the state of the individual, their mindset and their identity is the thing that needs worked on now, not more knowledge to come in, because transferring knowledge is not going to move the needle in 2026. So at this point, those are the three stakes. Is anyone uh, have any questions for me at this point? I'm just going to pause here. If you do, you can put them in the show notes there and in the chat, and we will come back and address those. So I want to talk about the simplicity of the shift that we're talking about to move the needle in 2026. And it has to do with being the creator. And the difference between the simplest mindset shift that I can tell you is, if you want to be anchored in purpose and unshaken by change, and you want to move at the speed of the train and not get pummeled through it, there's one simple shift that you can start today. And that is to think about giving up being a goal setter, giving up the thought of competition and trading it for becoming a goal creator, who creates from new ideas, from accessing new ideas from the human potential within your team. New ideas that were never here before, not taking the old stuff and trying to have the fixed pie of what is and compete and fight over it anymore, but to totally create new markets. Think of things like Ubers, that what they did to, to add to the taxi market, or Airbnbs to lodging, for example, getting into that blue ocean, if you will, is what's going to be needed. And that's just stepping away from being a goal setter of the past to being a goal creator. Another thing that happens when we're in goal setting mode is that we tend to push instead of regulate and calm our nerves. So the stress level in being a goal setter is a lot higher than it is for a goal creator that regulates the human wiring. And I'll talk about that a little bit. Goal setters are typically managing and trying to preserve what is, where goal creators are inspiring people to think of something totally new, like the Wright brothers flying a plane. Goal setters tend to react to what's going on outside of them. Goal creators tend to take something and work from the inside out and inspire and respond using their thinking to leverage the change and turn it into their opportunity. And goal creators, tend to stay where they've been and do the same thing over and over again, Groundhog Day, Groundhog Year all over. And goal creators are always focused upon exponential growth that's going to match the growth in 2026, and ask the question how they can multiply their impact. So this is not about force, it's about creating a new state. And if you, as a leader, a CEO, want to skip levels and win without burning people out, the way to deal with the human wiring issue and to deal with the speed and the influence is to learn how to create this creation zone for your employee culture. When you do that simple shift and you turn your culture into a creation zone, what happens is all of a sudden progress just feels natural. Engagement levels stay high. They don't dip. They don't take a major dive. And your momentum keeps compounding with the investment in making that simple shift over time. Now, this is not something where you can be Superman and jump and leap, through high mountains in, 15 days. This is not about a transaction. It's about an investment in your people and your culture to move to the creation zone. And if you can start also reframing the disruptions that you see in the marketplace, not as something that's coming to break you down as a leader, but it's actually here to build you up and evolve you, to that those disruptions are really signposts pointing you in a new direction of where you want to lead. They're a signal for leverage so that you can expand creativity and influence within your teams. You're going to grow and in an exponential rate, and you're going to create sustainability for your business. Not only that, the top talent, who are the creators, who are the builders that you want to attract, that are going to be your greatest asset in your corporation, is going to be your human capital, the builders and the creators that you bring on board. As we move into 2030 and the generational shift takes place, you've got a lot of talent and a lot of ideas that can use all this intelligence, and it can be used as leverage. But they want a leader. They want someone that's going to develop them. They want someone that's going to coach them and teach them how to grow their careers. And so when you step into that simple shift of making a decision that your culture is going to move to creation zones, look out. You're going to start having fun again back at work. All right, so I said that I would talk about the polarity of the mind. I don't want to go overboard. I want to give you some simplicity just to think about a basic science law, since most of us here are in the science field, and it's called the law of polarity. And all of us as human beings are spiritual beings. We have access to a universal mind that's connected to universal intelligence, and we live in a physical body. And we have two forces, internal forces, in this invisible mind that we access. It's where all the creativity comes from. And whichever state, polarity, that mind is in determines whether what kind of rate of speed you're going to have, how much creativity you're going to access, and how much influence you're going to have on the people that you sell to in the marketplace, the people that you sell to within your company to create engagement and your influence. And that polarity is where the power lies, and it's in your mind. Your mind, Bob Proctor taught me this. Your invisible mind looks like this. Now, he called this the stick person. And if you look up the history of this little figure in this image, this came out in 1934 by a Dr. Thurman Fleet, who said the same thing that I'm saying today. We're treating the symptoms and we're not working on cause. And at that particular time, he said the problem is we're dealing with an invisible mind that we don't understand or have a picture of because we think in pictures. So the story goes that he had a dream, and this image came to him in a dream through his creativity, and he started using it to teach people about their mind. Now, if you look at this stick man, there's a circle that has a top and a bottom. The top part is what he called the conscious mind part. This is the command center part of of the mind that runs and operates the body. You are your awareness, and you control your body's movement through the conscious mind. The subconscious mind is the bottom part here. This controls all the unconscious, involuntary systems, the sympathetic nervous system in your body for things like regulation of your organs and all the things that you don't need to think about. And then the bottom part is saying that this big part, the subconscious and the conscious and the subconscious, are basically moving the body as an instrument around. Now, this conscious mind at the top has access, has a two-way, has responds, has the ability through the CNS system to monitor through sight, sense, your five senses, sound, smell, touch. It monitors that, and it can take feedback from the outside to keep you protected or activate the protection system. So if a dinosaur is coming and is going to eat you, it's going to activate and turn, activate your central nervous system. Your central nervous system is connected to your sympathetic nervous system through the vagus nerve, and it operates as one. And whatever is in your subconscious mind is the thing that causes your body to move or not move, slow down, or speed up. So if you think about what I have here in the picture, the positive side of this invisible mind can move towards purpose. So when it gets activated on the positive side of the mind and it has a purpose and a meaning and an aim, it's going to go in that direction. However, if your mind thinks it's always trying to protect you, if it thinks that you're under attack or you have some sort of a danger, it's going to activate the other side of the mind, which is the protection mechanisms within you, and it's going to cause things to shut down. So, for example, the brain that's connected with your conscious mind in the command center wants to, I think it's like 20% of, it uses 20% of the energy in your body, but it's only like, I don't know, 5% of your body weight. But the minute that it thinks you're in danger zone, it's going to try to conserve energy and it's going to shut off the motivation mechanism. Your sympathetic nervous system is the thing like that you feel like when you've got anxiety in your body, etc., and stress, a lot of stress response, the thing that causes your body and your organs, because it's overactivated, because it thinks you're under attack, it can cause a lot of health issues and things. So there's a lot of stress. So when we get stressed as a human being in our body or stress in our thoughts, because of fear, any kind of a induced fear, whether it's real or imagined, it doesn't matter. When that happens, we activate protection side of our brain. When we feel safe and we're relaxed, because tension tires, but when we're relaxed and the body has full, open, no constriction flow of energy, we can operate at very high levels of momentum and motivation to get a lot done, and our productivity will go real high. So, the question that you want to be asking yourself as a leader is, have I been developing a culture that's protection and compliance instead of purpose and meaning? And the results are different. So, just for an example, a lot of times when you have overwhelm with people being stressed out, or they're stressed out 70% of the time, they never get that balance back, it blocks your execution. People move a lot slower. They just don't move, and a lot that has a lot to do, everything to do with your engagement being down at 30%. But if you're calm and your leadership is calm and you can help your team be calm and regulate their nervous systems so that they're feeling safe, all of a sudden you're going to have energy, you know, the organs open up and release the constriction, and energy is going to flow, and you have very light anabolic energy that's going to be operating. So think of it this way: if you have your in your company, you see a lot of people avoiding risk or avoiding conflict, or maybe sometimes you do that out of protection. Hey, I'm not judging anything, it's just a human wiring issue. That signals that people are in protection mode. Another example of signaling that your culture's in protection mode is you have a lot of people delaying decisions, or your salespeople go out and maybe they haven't been really feeling comfortable about and high conviction about the product. And because they don't decide, they delay their own decisions and procrastinate. You can't give what you don't have to a customer. And so the customer's decisions are getting extended and delaying your forecasts, and opportunities keep getting pushed out. If you have people are in protection mode, they're going to want to follow the rules and comply and do a lot of compliance, but they don't feel it's safe enough to step out and do something creative. So they just kind of hunker down. However, if you activate people into purpose mode in your culture, you're going to see a lot of people stepping up, taking initiative. They're going to be coming with ideas to create value. They're not going to be taking things personally if you say, okay, that's just not going to work, Charlie. They're going to come up with another idea, and they're going to make decisions, and they're going to iterate what they and express what's going on and what the opportunity is. And you're going to see all kinds of ideas and creativity come into the forefront. And that's when you get out of that friction of the congested highway and get onto the smooth sailing to really allow you to really accelerate way ahead of your competition. So, what I did for all of you tonight is, for anyone that's here, I have made you a simple question that I can leave you with, so that if you get all inspired about doing this and you really want to make sure that you know what to do for the next step, I'm going to give you a simple exercise that if you do it, I promise you, you will start to see whether you've been operating more in protection mode, and that you may want to change. You can make a decision to change that, or that if you've been operating and really getting people to go forward in purpose mode. The simple question to ask every time you make a decision, a committed decision, is this decision that I'm making today coming from my wanting to protect something or because I feel a purpose and I want to do the right thing and it has something to do with aligning to my values and creating impact for people and I'm making this decision based upon purpose. And what this does is if you start evaluating every single decision that you're making, and you're going to see that you're going to start to have a little bit more choice. You may not just respond, you may think and pause and decide instead of reacting the normal way you would, that you're going to respond a little different. It's going to reveal any of your hidden constraints and it's going to make you aware of kind of what's going on with no judgment. There's no judgment here. This is just an awareness game because we can't change any state, even our own state as leaders, unless we're aware that something needs some reinvention that we want to, and we decide on our own that we want to reinvent. So in this, it's just a PDF. You'll get this. There's going to be just a couple simple steps in here. So step one is we just finished January. What you do is you say to yourself, in the last 30 days, first month of the year, 2026, what has been my dominant mode at work? Have I been mostly in protection? Have I been mostly at purpose? Or maybe it's a mix of both, and you just circle the answer. There's no judgment, it's just make an observation. Because when we do self-reflection and take that time for observation, that's also a tool that we can use to reset and calm our circuits. And then you ask yourself three questions. Where have I been playing it safe instead of playing it forward for my future? Second question is, where or have I been delaying any decisions to avoid discomfort because just doesn't feel comfortable or risk? And a lot of that discomfort is typically when we're growing, we are going to feel some discomfort. So just ask yourself the question, and nobody's going to see the answers but you. And then the third question is, where have I been complying instead of creating? Where have I just been accepting or settling what is instead of using my creativity to create my future and what can be? And so you just do the review last 30 days. And then you take the 30-day challenge. So inside here, there's 30 days of these questions. And you just, on a daily basis, you have this by your desk and you say, okay, what was today's situation and what was the decision? What was my first reaction? Was it protection or purpose? And what am I trying to protect right now, if anything? And if I chose purpose instead, just what might I create? And that's it. You just answer those questions. You could do it at the end of the day. And then at the end of the week, you can see if there's any patterns that you saw during the week. So, for example, if protection, did it show up every time I had a meeting? Or did it just show up if I had a conflict with an employee? Or did it just show up, because a change happened that I wasn't expecting? And then what conditions would increase my safety and creativity? So if I had a different thought or there was a different condition, write out what that would be that would make you feel more safe to be more creative. And then the last question is, where does speed return when I shift to purpose? What does it allow me to do faster? And then you just make a note for the week, of any insights that you had. And you just do that for 30 days. So everyone will get this if you registered. So I'll be sending that out after tonight. How many of you think that you'd like to make some changes and put a little bit more purpose into your culture for 2026? Because here's the stakes. The winning formula in 2026 is going to, the teams that are going to win are the teams that are going to get that engagement out of that 30% and move it up. And they're going to be able to do that by addressing the safety issues in their culture and taking a real good look at their culture and what needs to change and start implementing that. The other thing that it's going to do is when the engagement goes up and it's a great place to work, guess what? All the top talent, which is not everybody, there's a bell curve of top talent. The top talent's coming to find you because they hear about the engagement and how good it is to work in a company that's fun and really values the individual, respects the individual, and wants to get ideas and creative ideas from people and contributions. Because when people connect and they contribute, that creates high degree of fulfillment, significance, and meaning. Number two is if you have been setting goals or you set a goal that's a maintenance or addition goal, you're going to struggle because there's no inspiration in those goals. But if you are looking at the fact that this is going to be a wealth changing year, there's going to be people taking advantage of the opportunity of leveraging the speed and influence. And if you set yourself a goal to have a high creative zone environment and create new value coming into the marketplace in 2026 and become a goal creator and set out a big multiplication goal. It doesn't even matter. You don't need to know how, because when you create and you activate your creativity by getting rid of all the stress in the nervous system, whether it's the CNS system or the sympathetic nervous system, what happens is this part of the mind, the subconscious mind, is connected to universal intelligence. This is where you get all your sixth sense, your intuitive hits like Einstein used to get and Edison used to get when they were doing the high invention stuff. All that stuff came from the universal intelligence that connects us all. And when you get rid of all the fear and there's nothing in this nervous system blocking the energy, you're going to get all those fast hits that scientists love to get that give them new ideas. And the people in the sales team are going to get them about ways to sell or break into new markets. And you're just opening up the big, huge, unlimited supply of creativity. And those people that set those kind of goals and leverage that sixth sense and that information to come up with value and have a team that's all rallied around creating masterminds to that, how two minds come together, you activate the third mind. You're going to win and have quantum leaps because you will providing value. It's at the speed the market demands and creating influence skills, which is the third part that are going to help get people that you are serving to make inspired decisions at a high accelerated rate. The training that you do on calming all the circuits for creativity to really maximize that, and the training that you do, if any training, is going to be on soft skills and influence skills that help people make inspired decisions. That's going to be the leverage that's going to cause you to win in 2026. So you have two options tonight. You've come here, you've heard some information, and a lot of people can do the standard thing that they taught us in school to do, which is just to gather more information. But as we said at the very beginning, gathering more information and having that information does not mean squat unless it's applied. But you can do that. You can gather it, keep doing nothing too different, repeat last year, but the issue is your relevance in the marketplace is going to disintegrate. Not because you're not a good person, I'm not talking about that. Just your value in the marketplace is going to go down because if you do nothing, you're going to stay where you are and you're not going to be of service of this new market in the world we live in. The second option you have is to have a conversation with me to talk about what I do best, which is help companies, CEOs, HR leaders, sales leaders, VPs to create a new creation plan for your culture, whether it's your sales team culture, whether it's your whole organization, whether it's your executive team, doesn't matter. But that creation based plan where you're going to eliminate and create, you're going to eliminate the stress, the overwhelm, and create a psychological safe uh, culture where creativity is going to be rewarded as opposed to compliance, you will skip levels and stay relevant. And if that's what you want to do, what I want you to do is book a call with me. And it's just a simple conversation and decide how you're going to create your year because creativity in 2026 is definitely the multiplier. And the ability, your ability to have speed and influence to deliver solutions to the market is key. And if you do nothing, that's still a decision, and you're welcome to make that decision. But for those of you out there that I know want more and actually see this year as being your year to really turn the tables and leverage this huge opportunity of disruption, book a conversation with me. The call information, the booking link is in there. It's also in the little PDF that I'm going to send you. Book a call with me. Let's have a conversation because it's going to be fun. And I know that more than 200 people have signed up for this event. This is relevant. If you're here for a reason. And I promise you, I'm going to leave you with an impression of increase. And we're going to have that conversation is going to be meaningful for you this year. So book the call. It doesn't cost anything. Book the call. All right. Have a great evening. Thank you so much for being here. And we'll see you again soon. Take care.